Bonjour et bienvenue au Rendez-Vous avec Yasmin
and Kumar. The focus today is on literature. An author who has won many awards for literature, including the 2022 Booker Prize, the prestigious British award given annually to a full-length novel in English, and the recent 8th Emile Guimet Prize for Asian Literature is one of Sri Lanka's foremost authors, Shehan Karunathilaka.
Let's go back to the Musée Guimet, the awards ceremony which took place in Paris on the 4th of June this year.
Nous avons élu à l'unanimité Shehan Karunathilaka, auteur du roman intitulé Les 7 lunes de Maali Almeida. Mais aussi merci d'être venu du Sri Lanka pour recevoir ce prix. J'espère que ce prix vous permettra aussi de franchir cette frontière de l'inconnu et de vous laisser happer par cette spirale de la force littéraire que ce livre incarne et par sa mission poétique et politique. Politique comme poétique. Et je pense que c'est très important de le souligner.
J'ai découvert une voix absolument exceptionnelle. Et c'est quelque chose qu'on ressent dès les premières pages du livre. On ressent beaucoup de choses, on a l'impression de vivre 1000 vies en lisant ce livre et de découvrir le Sri Lanka, la mythologie et son histoire récente.
So, multifaceted Asia, multifaceted vision. I mean, it's not for me to talk about how multifaceted the novel is, but Sri Lanka, Asia is certainly multifaceted. I mean, we have absurdity, we have tragedy, we have comedy, we have violence, we have humor, we have all colors of the spectrum in terms of emotions, and that's why it's a challenging place to live, but it's an inspiring place to write about because, and we've had a very colorful history. So I don't know if that was my motivation, but I think I hope that I captured some of those many, many different colors and different shades. And the fact is, I chose to write about a period of history in the 80s where, multifaceted conflicts from all sides. And I think Asia is full of stories. And luckily, for writers like me, the world is starting to warm to them and be interested to them, which wasn't true a few generations ago, but now people are interested, and hopefully I can be part of that.
Si tu possédais une carte de visite, voici ce qui y figurerait. Maali Almeida, photographe, joueur, salope. Si tu avais une pierre tombale, il y serait gravé Maalinda Albert Cabalana, 1955-1990. Mais tu ne possèdes ni l'une ni l'autre.
I tried to follow him in the translation and all of that. And I could get it just from his kind of the rhythm of his speech and the laughs at the right places and all of that. But look, it's like I said in my speech, it's quite bizarre, this story that you wrote in Kolpeti about a very specific period of history in a tiny country, that it travels so far and you don't write with that expectation. But this book has traveled, and I was in Jamaica last week. I was in Bulgaria before that. And then to hear that the translation is having a life of its own and acquiring readers, that's magnificent. But it's not stuff you think about when you're writing, because you write with low expectation, or at least I do. And you hope for the best. And once the book leaves, once it goes to the printer, it's kind of none of your business. And that's how writers keep themselves sane, because most books kind of disappear. But this one, thankfully, has had a life. I mean, it was finished in 2021, back in COVID, and I'm still traveling around talking about it. So I'm quite grateful for that.
Tu as découvert très tôt que tu aimais les garçons. Quand ton père t'a dit un jour que tous les PD devraient être ligotés et violés avec des couteaux. Tu as baissé les yeux sur tes claquettes et ne l'as plus jamais regardé en face. Un jour viendra peut-être où les homosexuels pourront s'embrasser dans la rue, obtenir ensemble des hypothèques et mourir dans les bras l'un de l'autre, mais de ton vivant, sûrement pas.
He gave a tremendous performance, and I'm quite quite blessed to experience that.
Wasn't that a great honor for Sri Lanka? Well, we are here today at the Alliance Francaise Library in Colombo with Shehan himself. Bonsoir, bonjour, Shehan, and welcome to the Alliance Francaise and to Rendez Vous. Shehan, what was it like? You've been through many awards ceremonies, but this one in Paris, what was that experience like?
Well, firstly, it's always good to travel to Paris. I've been there as a younger man, backpacking, and during my work time, and of course after the book came out. And so any excuse, even though I was there for a day, I was in Montparnasse, just walking around, and it's one of those cities, as you all know, all the cliches are true, and the awards itself was quite informal. It was a South Asian award show, so the French really like their manga, I find out, the comics. So there was a lot of fans of the manga comics, and they'd awarded that. And yeah, my silly little book had also been given an award. And yeah, so it wasn't as formal as most things. It was quite casual, but met a lot of very interesting people, publishers, and readers and journalists. And so I think it was, I never get sick of traveling. The book has traveled further than I thought, and receiving awards it's a tremendous privilege, especially Guimet, which has been around for a few years, and some great books have been awarded. So it was a great experience.
Now, who are your favorite authors? Any French authors in particular?
That's a tough question to kind of sum up, because I should say, I read Baudelaire and Victor Hugo and Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Cormac McCarthy and Toni Morrison, all these literary figures who I all love, but I came to reading and writing as a fan of genre fiction. I grew up reading Stephen King and Agatha Christie and Ira Levin. And with French literature, even though I've read a few contemporary writers, maybe not enough, Leila Slimani, who's tremendous, Annie Arnaud, after the Nobel Prize, was introduced to many of us, Yasmin Reza, her plays, I think, were staged in Colombo by a few friends of mine. But really, when I think of French literature, it's the books that I found in my grandma's house growing up. I didn't know they were French or whatever, they were great stories, of course. Guy de Maupassant, who I still read as, the master of the short story, these lovely little funny but dark and expertly crafted pieces. But also, Jules Verne, the OG of science fiction, read that as a kid, Alexander Dumas, The Musketeers, Monte Cristo. So that's what I really think of when I think of French literature. I mean, the genre stuff that got me into reading and writing.
Shehan's 36 languages, you don't speak as many of those languages. So how much do you think has been lost in translation?
Well, firstly, you're grateful to be translated. My first book was decent, but got translated to English and Sinhala, I think. That was about it. With this one, a big prize means it got translated to 36 languages, and I speak English, I can read Sinhala, a bit of Tamil, but I really don't have an opinion on whether the Russian translation or the Ukrainian one is better. So I think in the end you really have to trust the publishing house. They've got professionals and they hire the right person to kind of put your book into that language. But I don't see it as if I look at the Sinhala version, it's really a reimagining. It's almost like writing a novel. So I think translators are really the unsung heroes of this whole thing. Garcia Marquez, Murakami, even all the French writers we mentioned, I haven't read them, I've read their translators. And so Xavier Gros, who translated this, I think, translators deserve, when I meet them, I like to give them hugs and buy them lunch and drinks, because they're worth, like I say, they're rewriting the novel for another audience. Translators, apart from being unsung heroes, they are also very meticulous people. I've had some very intense conversations with translators. I think the Japanese translator called me up saying, I need to have a serious discussion. Can you tell me the difference between ane, aiyo, apo, ado, ade? And it was quite a serious conversation, but I had to interrogate it and say, okay, ane is a lamentation, addo means like hey, and I remember, I think my Italian translator said, sorry for saying this, but the van is white on page 17, and then on page 34 it's black, then again it's on 300 it's white, what's going on? And so they spot these mistakes. But in the end, they are reimagining it in their language. And if I look at the example of the Sinhala translation by Dilipa Abesekara, which I was able to read, I think, it's a very different, it's the same book, but it's got a very different flavor, and that's how it should be. I think translators are really reimagining it. So I don't know, I can't really comment on, maybe the viewers, the people who read French can comment and do a comparison, but it seems to have worked okay because it won a decent prize. So I think Xavier Gros, I owe him lunch and drinks and lots of hugs.
So Shehan, you were at the Musée Guimet, the award, but did you visit the museum itself?
No, so they had organized a tour for all of us, but I think by the time the festivities and the champagne had gone, I think the security thing had expired, so we didn't get to do that. I got to walk around the building and all of that, but it was such a whirlwind. But yeah, I've heard that it's well worth a visit and perhaps taking extra day to see it.
So Shehan, I think you can join us and our viewers to visit the Musée Guimet in Paris. Founded by Emile Guimet in the late 19th century, the Guimet Museum has one of the largest collections of Asian art outside of Asia, and that includes items from Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Tibet, India and Nepal, among other countries. Guimet's vision stretched beyond a far classical museum, and his project included a research center, a place of study where conferences could be held and where beauty and science would be accessible to all. He consistently supported researchers and explorers and funded different scientific publications to disseminate knowledge on the museum's collections to scholars as well as the general public.
While the Musée Guimet offers the wonder of Asian art,
we visit the National Library of France. To discover the France South Asia Digital Library, which retraces the history of representations and relations between France and the countries of South Asia, in particular India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Pakistan.